Too late.
It's
Just
too late,
start.
Robbie. We've gone
Just
live.
start. Just.
We have
Okay.
Hello,
We're here.
internet. We are indeed
Hello.
here. Say hello, everybody. Who is listening? I can't.
I think we need to let people jump in if
We
anyone's
do.
listening.
If indeed anybody is listening, well, let me just check.
If indeed.
I should be able to see here somehow.
I
Go to.
can't. I genuinely can't see this data.
Sorry, say that
Okay,
again,
share
Robbie.
screen. I genuinely can't see the data of who's listening.
Ah, no, right, okay, no, I've got it. Live viewers 1, me.
What? Not even me.
not even you are watching, Robbie.
We are a lot earlier in the day today, though, aren't we?
Are we? Didn't we do it this time last
Yeah.
time?
No, I did 3 o'clock last time, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, that's why I was so confused when we were talking. But even so, if we record the episode, then we're bang on it.
we do. Well, people are turning up. Sebastian is here. Hey, Sebastian.
Hey,
How are
Sebastian,
you?
do you want to
Hello
come
to
along?
hello to everybody else. Looks like my mum's not watching today. Usually, I can rely on at least my mum. My wife, sadly, is considered a key worker, so she is in the hospital, looking at people's eyes. Good afternoon, Greg. How are you?
Isn't this actually, while people are just turning up, isn't this a little bit crazy, this whole situation, though? Like, I can't work at the minute. I physically don't have a gym to go to. It has been advised by government that I shouldn't be PTing one on one. Agreed. We don't want to spread it anymore. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? It is absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon,
I
Robbie.
would say.
How are you?
I'm really good, mate. Well.
How?
I'm not really good. I'm okay. I'm good because I am having a bit of time to relax, which is nice, and catch up on life. I'm not so good because of COVID-19. The fact that I'm kind of in between a very big thing that COVID has interrupted that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, unfortunately. Races have stopped, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I appreciate, like it's tough times for everyone at the minute. So I'm good, just baffled by everything that's going on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, what a lot's changed in a week. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's
when we spoke
crazy.
last week, everything was still on for the summer. Although I did suspect things would get cancelled. I think Monday they announced Transcontinental was being postponed for a year,
Yeah,
which I'm pleased. I mean, absolutely the right decision. I'm also pleased that they made that decision early because
mm,
you we need people need to plan, people need to train. Having the
yeah,
level of uncertainty and what's happening with races just doesn't help anybody get ready for these things. So I think I'm happy they made a clear early decision to postpone the race till next year. They have
yeah,
postponed it, so TCR number 8 will happen in 2021. Anybody who has got a place and who paid their money will have a place when it happens in 2021. So, I'm looking at this positively and thinking I've got an extra 12 months to train. And
yes, yeah, yeah,
you know
agreed.
what? It's good to have something to focus on because we're all in this situation where life is pretty much on hold. And
Yeah,
when you walk outside, I don't know if you it can be a little bit weird. You walk outside and you kind of expect people to be coughing on every street corner, but
yeah, yeah,
everybody's the penetration rate of infection is not huge yet. It will go up for sure because this thing goes on an exponential curve, but
yeah,
it's a bit strange because you're not really life seems to just be paused and you're not kind of really sure why when you go outside. I mean, you know why, but yeah, it's
yeah,
strange. But this way I've got something to look forward to, which I think is really important. I think the hardest thing about this is going to be the mental challenge of staying staying focused, or the mental challenge of dealing with just being by yourself, however long we're going to be by ourselves for.
But luckily enough, we're both in the UK. Boris has said one form of exercise a day. So you can go out on a bike ride if you wish, or a run, which I think is just needed. Don't know how I would manage not leaving the house once a day. I've got Swift, but still, it's balls. You know what I mean? It's not easy. Like, yeah, I think it's going to really test a lot of families, relationships, people's training, that kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see.
Sorry,
Kerry.
quickly to respond to Kerry's question. No, Robbie hasn't got a new camera. He's actually
No.
plugged into his router today, so we should get better better connection to the internet. And also, we've realised that Robbie was leaving his microphone miles away, and that's why we couldn't hear
No, I
him. So
wasn't.
now he's literally got the microphone right here. He's like a sports commentator.
Yeah,
So we're
I
making
know.
progress. Sadly, we were going to try and buy him a webcam that was better, but the whole of the world
Good
was
luck.
sold out of webcams
I know.
because
So
everybody's
the
working
only
from home.
way. Mm,
Yeah, everybody's working from home, so yeah, no, you can't get a webcam for love nor money. So you're gonna have to make do with
Patreon.
you're gonna have to make do with Minecraft Robbie for a while. So yeah, hey Chris, hey
Yeah.
Kerry, glad to see you both on this show because we're gonna talk about the Inca Divide today.
The Inca Divide. Yeah, Inca Divide special. I know.
We've been threatening to do this ever
I'm
since we
excited
started doing the
about this.
podcast.
I know. Blimey, is Robbie on dial-up? Practically, yes. Do you know? I see. Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? Not ideal.
as,
Sorry,
as,
Alex.
as long
Sorry,
as
mate.
Robbie doesn't move, then he's okay. Then he looks kind of stable. But the minute he moves, it's Minecraft Robbie.
Is that I can't. It looks fine on my side, but it's obviously not on everyone else's.
Robbie, it
Yes.
looks fine on your side because you're seeing it real time. For the rest of us, it's going
Okay.
through the internet, and that's what makes you look like a Minecraft character. Um, anyway, so yeah,
Yes.
TCR number 8 postponed. Uh, Something to focus on, something to look forward to, and as you were saying, yeah, we are allowed out once a day to go and exercise, and I agree. I think this is a really really good thing. I think people are thinking, oh well, you're gonna catch it or spread it. You
No.
From all of the research I've read, this spreads by being in fairly close proximity for a period of time, like 5 minutes. If you are just riding past somebody, you are highly, highly, highly unlikely to catch it or to spread it. So I think there's a lot of fear mongering out there that if you go out riding and you ride past somebody who coughed 10 minutes ago, you're going to catch it. You're not. That's pretty clear with some of the research.
But
But I think also we have to look at the population level gains. If we tell a population to kind of sit in and do no exercise for months, years, whatever, then that has a much much bigger impact on health services than somebody having a crash.
yes.
On an individual level, if you have a crash, you may not get seen, but that's an individual risk assessment. We
But
have to
I
keep the
think,
population healthy and fit.
in my opinion, like I've been going out and riding most days. Um, I deliberately make a habit of taking water on my bike, enough food, so I don't need to stop. I don't need to get a coffee anywhere. Just go out, do some training, and then come back in. Quiet roads, take no risks, and just minimize everything. I've seen a lot of people, and I'm going to say this, it's a bit cheeky, and I know I shouldn't. There's a lot of people smashing out like on Instagram. You shouldn't be leaving the house. You shouldn't be riding a bike. Why are you outside like and all this? And I'm like, come on, like I appreciate that if I was to crash, it would stress the NHS a little bit, but I still think you're right, Neil, in saying that there would be more issues if we were stuck indoor than people going out and getting a bit of exercise and mentally being a bit better. But that's just my opinion. So I'm gonna carry on, providing I feel up to it, exercising outside. But
And
I
as,
can
as long
understand.
as long as government advice is that we can go outside. I think
Yeah,
in
yeah,
countries where
yeah,
it is
definitely,
locked down. So
definitely.
I know we've got a few people on from Dubai here, and Dubai is in a different situation. They're under curfew overnight as
Mm,
they do mass disinfections of streets and roads, which feels like it's more for show than anything else, because
yeah,
the virus lasts for 2 to 3 hours outside. Um, doesn't survive well in the heat, so I can't imagine this is actually achieving much other than making people feel like progress is being made to tackle this thing. But we will see. We will see. Yeah, as soon as government advice changes and it says stay in and don't go out, then my advice would be to follow the government's advice.
yeah. Get some
Boris's advice, who
exercise.
it turns out has now got coronavirus.
Not
So
ideal. It's
he won't
just
be shaking anybody's hands in a hurry.
you wouldn't have guessed that he would have got it out of all the people. He gets
Would you
it.
not?
It's crazy.
How many?
Yeah.
Really? How many people
I
did
just
he said stop shaking people's hands and then carried on shaking people's hands?
true,
It's
true.
probably
Oh,
how
do you know what?
why.
I've had a whole week now, probably up until the hour, of just the only person I've been in close proximity to is Bryony. That is it for a whole
Yeah,
week. I've made a conscious effort not to see anyone. Actually, the only time I did some shopping, that's when I had to get served at a checkout. But bar that and Bryony, no close contact. So proud of
yeah,
myself. But honestly, like having to talk to all my clients and say, look, I'm real sorry. Like we can't train together is yeah, we'll see what we'll see what we've got left to come back to after this is all over, I guess. But yeah,
yeah.
we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
it's tough.
Anyway,
It is tough. Anyway, we didn't. This
yeah,
isn't going to turn into a coronavirus show,
no, no,
even though
it
that is
can't
what's
be one.
occupying everybody's minds. Instead, we are going to talk about the Inca Divide, which we both did back in 2018, and I think
Yes,
for both of us at the time, it was the most challenging
epic.
thing race that we had ever undertaken. So, Robbie, let's kick off.
Yeah.
What is the Inca Divide? Where is it? How long is it? How much climbing is there in it?
Okay, so the Inca
I'm
Divide
asking you
is
the
a
hard questions.
self-supported. That's okay. I think I remember everything. To be fair, the Inca Divide is a self-supported ultra endurance cycling race in South America, Peru. Is 1800k, but can be shortened if you're willing to take gravel tracks, etc. And the climbing, I want to say, is 24,000 meters of climbing.
I think it was something like 24 to 26,000 meters of climbing.
Yeah, I think originally it said 27, but it ended up being 24 because of the routes we took, if I'm
Yeah, and this
correct.
and this was the 2018 edition. So back in
Yes, yeah,
2018, you could uh, take a different course as long as you went through the
yeah.
checkpoints. You could take whichever route you wanted, which didn't leave too many options. But it did leave some kind of big options.
Mm,
In later editions, so last year they changed it and it was compulsory, and they changed the course quite a bit
yeah.
last year. And this
Oh, didn't
year,
they just?
well, obviously I think this year it's not going to happen, but this year the course had changed quite significantly to a completely
Mm,
different part of the country. So it's going to be, if it were to go ahead this year, it would be a very different race. Um,
yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, my when I first did my when I did my first ultra race in Oman, I wasn't expecting to do any other ultra races after that. I was just going to do
Yeah.
one and tick the box. And it was only when I finished Oman that I thought, oh, I quite like this. Why don't I go and do Corsica? And then with all
Mm,
the things that happened in Corsica in 2018 and Rodney getting lost and missing off a key segment and getting disqualified, I ended up leading the Biking Man series. So I kind of
yeah.
felt I had to go to Peru really. So I had a conversation with Laura and said, well, I'm leading the series. It's going well, so I think I should go and do Peru, go and do the Inca Divide. So kind of that's how I
Yeah.
ended up on the start line. Now I had been to Peru before, back in 2006, but just to kind of do the kind of classic gringo trail of walking around. And it was. So I kind of knew what to expect. I knew to expect a lot of kind of high altitude stuff and things like that. But tell me about, how did you end up coming into this?
I, can I level in saying I never ever wanted to do the race from day one. I didn't even want to start it. I had agreed with Axel, so I said to him, because obviously I knew Axel just prior to the Biking Man stuff, and I said to him, look, I'll do all the races, and I decided since I was doing all the other ones, I'd do Peru as well, and I'd said to it had been one of these passing ideas, as in like, oh, so you've done Oman, you'll do Corsica, Peru, you might as well do all four, and I just said yeah. Then when I started looking into Peru, I was like, I genuinely don't want to race this. Like, I'm not. I was really inexperienced with gravel, so I didn't want to do that. Um, I did. I hate wild dogs. I just hate them so much. Or did at that point. I'm not so bad with them anymore. Didn't want to do that. High altitude, I'd never done. So if I'm brutally honest, Neil, I ended up just wanting to do all the series of Biking Man. But if you had said to me, I'll give you £5,000 to go and do it again, I would question whether I would or not. But at the time, I didn't want to do it. I had no interest in South America, in Peru, in the race. I just wanted to tick the box to say I'd done all the Biking Man ones, which unfortunately made it much tougher than it was originally going to be. But if people want me to be honest, then yeah, I had no enthusiasm to do this race. I was bricking it. I was so scared.
And I have to be honest, I think that really came through in how you were in the run up to the actual start.
Yeah. Oh, hugely.
Like
I was all over the shop. Let's
it
be
was
fair.
clear. So we
Like,
did. Let's talk through some of the challenges of the race, because it's
yeah,
not like any other, or it's like very few
nice.
other ultra races out there. It's in South America, which is a place most people haven't been.
Hmm. Yeah,
Things are incredibly different there compared to Europe, and to the
yeah,
Middle East and to the US and to all the places we kind of normally race. Um, as you've mentioned, there was lots of gravel. There's also
yeah.
altitude is a big challenge there. I mean, we were going up to, I think like the highest point we went to was like 4,900 meters or something like that. Now that's high.
It was
That's
like
really
40
high.
meters off 5,000 meters. It was silly. Yeah, it was absolutely silly going up
It's
that high.
insane. So
But
one of the things that we did when we got there was we flew in what, about 5 days before the start of the race.
yeah, yeah, because we had 3 days of acclimatizing. So we flew in 3 days, and then we got back to the start again, and then we yeah, started the race.
Yeah, and so during that acclimatization, you definitely had a few moments, didn't you?
Oh, can you get the picture up of the one I've got in the window at the
Oh,
minute?
this one. Hang on.
That's the one. This one. That was the tiniest little stream that I probably could have easily ridden across. And this was a few days before. Do you remember what happened 10 minutes after this photo, Neil?
You had a meltdown.
Yeah, I had an absolute
You went.
meltdown. Like,
Robbie went into. You went
yeah,
into absolute meltdown, and this is, we've
yeah,
not even
yeah.
started racing
So,
yet. And the
yeah,
kind of
this was
the
2 days before the race.
the longer story behind this is, one of the other challenges with doing the Inca Divide was the dogs.
Yeah,
And there's a well documented incident where Robbie, who hates dogs
yeah,
and particularly hates Alsatians, was going
yeah,
through between a young girl and her dog, which was an Alsatian. And Robbie just bolted straight through, bricked himself, and scared the dog.
yeah.
And of course, the dog latched its teeth into me,
Yeah, which
which is
actually
not
is.
what you want.
But we laugh about this now, but at the time it was not funny at all. Like, I was like, I'm not racing this, Neil. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. And then just yeah, we kind of got back to life and reality. But yeah, so one of the problems was dogs, and honestly, that's one of the biggest things that ultra people that like TCR people talk about how do you deal with dogs? How do you deal with dogs? How do you deal with dogs? And I was at the same point, like now I couldn't care for it. Like dogs don't bother me one single bit, but that's because of the Inca Divide. So yeah, the dogs was an issue. The altitude, Neil, like there's one thing saying, oh, at 5,000 meters, you'll be a little bit shorter of breath. There's another thing being at 5,000 meters. So the altitude was just, it just messed with your head so much, didn't it? Like, remember that first day we went out to 3,000, headaches and everything was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely awful. This is one of the big so many challenges to overcome with this one. That it's and that I think that's what contributed to both of us going into the race feeling really, really, really apprehensive. I mean, I'd been bitten by a dog, and I had to go to 3 doctors before I found one that told me to go and get an anti-rabies shot. So I was getting an anti-rabies shot literally kind of 12 hours before the start of the race.
Yeah.
Which is not the way you want to start an ultra race, is it?
No, no, that was awful. I really feel for you because that was just shouldn't have like it just shouldn't have happened, and it was kind of my fault. So I have to like say, a massive sorry. Like all jokes aside that we've been using,
Your
like about
fault,
that
Robbie.
dog incident.
It is your
It
fault.
was my fault.
Well, interestingly, Chris says the dogs in Taiwan were worse.
See, I didn't see any dogs in Taiwan.
I don't get that at all. I barely saw any dogs in Taiwan.
Yeah, I was actually looking for dogs because I thought there'd be a problem there, but they just didn't care. They really dthey did not care.
Yeah,
They just had no interest in me.
and like comparing it to Peru, like certainly the section between Carhuaz and Huaraz was just the worst dog experience of my life. Every village you went through, they just came yapping after you and chasing after you, and it was
It was
crazy.
awful.
But Greg says any tips for dogs? I've heard of people using dog whistles. So, Greg, the best thing you can do when a dog comes for you is stop. As soon as you stop, they stop.
But I know that's like as weird as it sounds. I know that's scary, but you just got to do it. Like honestly, like the dogs will literally just run up, and then about a meter away, they'll just be like, "Oh, oh, you're not running," and then they'll just walk away. They'll have no interest. Easiest thing to do, just stop.
Yeah. So stopping, completely agree with Robbie. Stopping just works. And then you start to move again. And if it chases after you again, then you just stop again. And eventually, after a couple of minutes of doing that, then they let you go on their way. So yeah, dogs works.
Yeah.
Stopping works really, really, really well.
Kerry's got it bang on there. Tips to dogs: get off and give them love. Literally do. Like get off and make a fuss of them, because they won't be able to take it. They'll just be like, "Oh, okay, goodbye."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They won't
I'm,
have any
I'm,
interest.
I'm trying to find this this photo of my leg after I got attacked. Here we go. I need to figure out technology issues here. We're just trying to work out how this works.
But you can see our logo in the corner there. Yes. Neil's been all technical. We have a logo here.
I know. Right,
we're showing pictures.
That is. Let's see what happens if I zoom that up. Does that show? No, it doesn't. Right. Yeah. So there we can see. There you can see what happens when you get attacked by an Alsatian in Peru, and what means you need to go and get some anti-rabies shots. So yes. Yeah, that was not the best start. And then literally 2 seconds, or not 2 seconds, literally half an hour later, Robbie has a complete and utter meltdown. Just talk us through it.
I had tubeless tyres, and I'd got them all done before I left, and I got a massive gash in one of them while we were out training, and that's not what you want before a race, because you're not going to find any more tyres that match out in Peru. So I had this massive gash in my tyre. It wouldn't seal, couldn't even use those little mushroom things, just sucked. And it kept going flat. I'm on my nice racing carbon wheels. Every so often I can feel it bottoming, and I'm like, you know what, I can't do this. And I just got off my bike, and I had a headache, which was killing me. Felt like someone was putting a drill through my forehead, and I just lost it. My tire went down for the last and final time. I just got off my bike, threw it across the road, and took my helmet off and threw it in a ditch. And then sat on the side of the road. And you came back to make sure I was all right. And I was like, I am effing not all right. And then I said to you, I'm not doing this. And then you were just like, look, let's just get back to the hotel. It could be worse, Rob. You could have been bitten by a dog, which at that point you had been. So I was like, exactly, Neil. This could get worse. And then yeah, then before you know it, we were at the start line.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that
no real
was
option though, but to carry on and race. So
yeah, yeah.
at the
I
start,
didn't. We didn't spend that much money to go there for a holiday. We went to race, and that was it.
yeah. Now, right, let's talk through the race then. So,
Cool.
for me, the route really kind of divided up into, I guess, four key sections. The first section being pretty much what was day one, along the coast and up over the first big climb and down to, was it Cajamarca? I've got my
Yeah.
map here.
Oh, I was just going to put a picture of the map on.
Yeah, Cajamarca.
Um,
So the race starts in a place called Trujillo, which I quite like Trujillo. I
I
know other
loved it.
people think it's a bit of a dump, but I thought it was fun. It was not really a tourist destination at all, and
It had a McDonald's.
it had a McDonald's. That was about all that was going for it. So yeah, we started in Trujillo, and the first kind of 120k was straight up the coast, tailwind, 4 o'clock in the morning, a little bit of rain and mist coming down, and I just remember going up that first bit, and we're doing like 27, 30k an hour. We blasted up there. I think there was a few people trying to put down a marker and make an early impression on the field, but it was that first day ended up being quite a big one for the race, because
Yeah,
you went
yeah.
120k up the coast and then you turn inland, and you basically then spend the rest of the day climbing. I think I made the turn inland at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't reach the top of the climb above Cajamarca until 6:30 at night. So
I've actually just picture
eight
on.
and a half hours just of climbing, and you went from sea level up
Yeah.
to 3,200 meters, I think, before
Yep. Then
descending down into Cajamarca.
yeah, I've actually just put a picture on of that first long straight of me riding my bike. That one. That was down Pan Am Highway, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And yeah, cut inland. And if I remember correctly, so that was up to the first checkpoint. And I get there, but I never checked what place I was in because I just didn't care. So I'd gone up the climb. I'd was probably in the last. I was probably in the last third of people. I didn't remember really passing many people on the way up. I get to the top, come down, pass a rider, get there, and realise I see you, and I realise that I was in fourth out of everyone, and I'd only just been about an hour or two behind you, which I was really proud of because I'd really made an effort that day to kind of be really efficient. But yeah, yeah, we got there. You were there second or third or second,
yeah, I was there in third.
and and I was
Well, I think
just
what
behind
what
you.
happened, Rodney had quite a few issues with tyres.
Yes.
He'd had loads of punctures, so
Yeah.
Rodney was definitely the favourite going into the race.
Yeah.
He'd had a few issues. Nico Valsasia, he was leading the race, but he'd taken a bad routing choice and done like an extra 1,000 meters of climbing. And he later on, like I think like 24 hours later, pulled out because his knee hurt.
Yeah.
And then it was myself and I think it was Marco Bellini.
Yes.
Can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
can't remember the guy's name because I'm pretty sure it's Marco Bellini or something like that, Italian guy. So yeah, so we're arriving and
Was
we're
he the
staying in
one?
this.
he wore all the crazy lycra, Marco, didn't he? You
No, I don't think
remember?
so.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
No,
sure, sure.
no, I don't
Anyway,
think so.
carry on. Yeah,
Um, yeah, you arrived just behind me, and I think we shared a room in that hotel at the checkpoint,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and uh, and that kind of marked the start of the second stage of the race, which I think was, for me, was probably one of the best bits of the whole race,
yeah.
because you could choose your routing. Quite a few people decided to turn around at checkpoint one, come back down to the coast, ride for about
Yes.
500 kilometres down the coast, and then come back inland and up towards checkpoint two. Whereas you and I and Marco had gone the
The
originally planned
badass route.
route, absolutely for hardcore people only,
Mm,
across the kind of pre-Andes, and
yeah.
yeah, I just remember setting off that morning. The moon was shining. It was like 3:30 in the morning. You're at 3,000 meters. It was amazing.
I got lost coming out the
How did you?
hotel.
How did you get lost?
Yeah. I was completely off track and I took a side road by mistake because my Garmin wasn't loading and I took this side road and that's where I got followed by that dog for ages. Remember me telling you, like 5 miles up that climb and a dog followed me the whole way. That was there just after the checkpoint.
Was
But
it
yeah, I
freaking you
just
out?
no, it's really cute. That was the dog that was being really nice and kept licking my shoes and I kept having to shout at it because it wouldn't leave me alone. But all it wanted was a bit of food, so I just ate a bit of food. Bad move because it followed me a long way. But at that point, I promised myself because not every dog wanted to kill me that I'd eventually get a dog because in any other world, way, shape or form, I wanted to take that dog home. It's a little Jack Russell and that dog was the inspiration for me getting Ivy now.
Where is Ivy
Not
today?
gonna lie. Ivy is out having a walk now because she was being a little
Ah,
turd this morning and she was just full gas. I've been no
she was
word of
full
a
of
lie,
gas.
Neil. I've been up since 4 a.m.
What?
Like
Because
I woke up.
Ivy jumped on your bed, farted, and then ran off.
No, I woke up and thought, oh, I'll get up and go out for a ride
What's
really
that
early.
smell?
Yeah, and then Ivy jumps up and she's like, I'm ready to play. And I'm like, no, you're not. So I go down, make some breakfast. And then I sat down and she's just like, should we go out for a walk? And I'm like, it's still dark, dog. And yeah, so I've been up since 4 a.m. with this dog and she's like getting all aggy and tired. So Bryony's taken her out for a walk, but she'll be back in about 20 minutes. So she'll jump up and I'll let you guys see her for a bit,
Who knows? We
whatever.
might even be
But yeah,
finished by then. I doubt it. But
I doubt.
yeah. So that first morning was amazing. Well, that second
Yeah,
morning of the race, because I was racing down and the tracker, and
yeah.
the other people kind of in the front had gone back the other way, so it looked like I was in the lead, which was kind of just. I
I
like
know. Like,
the first 3 hours of that day, I was pretty mind blown,
yeah, yeah. You were
totally
killing it
mind
though.
blown. Yeah, it was
You were
awesome.
killing
It
it.
was amazing. I mean, that whole. I think that day I rode about 220k
But
from Cajamarca through Huamachuco, and then
that's it,
over that
Hamachuca.
was onto Huamachuco, was then through onto the first gravel section,
Yeah,
which I was doing at like, I think I hit the gravel section about 4 o'clock that afternoon.
yeah.
And I have to give a big shout out to Kerry, who's on who's watching live, because she'd done the.
Can you, Ivy?
Oh,
Can you see?
I
Ivy,
can hear panting.
Ivy, come here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Can you see it? Ivy,
Should we rename this the
hello.
Neil, Robbie, and Ivy show?
Yeah, I think so. Go on, go see
Oh,
mommy.
just make
Yeah,
sure
she
she
was.
doesn't chew through your cable, yeah?
No, not again, not again. That wasn't even funny.
Because
Yeah, carry on,
we
carry on.
won't be able to order you a new microphone this time.
I don't want to have to go through that again. I don't want to have to go through that
Anyway,
again. So,
yeah,
yeah,
big shout out to Kerry, who's watching at the moment, because she'd done a massive playlist for me. It was like 11 hours worth of playlists, and
yeah,
I was under strict instructions not to listen to it until I started racing, and to put it on only in times of dire need. So that
Yeah.
second evening, as I'm hitting the gravel section, put the
Oh,
put that playlist on, and what I didn't know is that she'd got friends and family to record a load of messages for me. So I'm riding along,
oh,
and
I
the
didn't
next
know
thing I
that.
know, three songs into the playlist, and Laura's voice comes over my headphones, and I nearly broke down. I was nearly in tears. I cried.
Yeah. Oh, bless you. Like, honestly, but thing is, though, it was just so I think I stopped it. Did I stop at Hamachuca? I think I did on that first night. And it was, I remember my second day. Do you know, I sat thinking I've bitten off way more than I can chew. And going back to what you just said then, the issue wasn't the simple fact of it was, oh, I did 220k that day. Like, 220k is not a lot in an ultra race, but in the Inca Divide, that's a massive day. You'd be happy like with 150k a day in the Inca because you get up at 4 a.m. You start riding at half 4 5. If by lunchtime you've hit about 60 or 70k, you'd be happy because it's like the altitude, the gravel, the dogs, getting food and resupply is just so much harder that you just don't get anywhere near the distance you want each day. And I'll be honest, Neil, that was where I struggled the most because it was just soul destroying. My second day, I think I was probably about 40k behind you on my second day. And I just felt lonely, tired. I got to Hamachuca, that's where we had stayed a few days before to acclimatise, and I was just upset. Like, I just didn't really want to be in the race, mate. And like every day I sat there thinking, don't worry, 4 or 5 more days, 4 or 5 more days. And I had this terrible attitude, the whole way through of just not really being very good at racing because I was just wasn't enjoying it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't
Can you
struggle with
print?
it like that. I've
Oh,
whilst you were talking, I've been trying to work the technology in the background, and I thought I had to bring this place up. This was somewhere I rode past on that second day. Welcome to Shitabamba.
yeah.
Anyway, enough of that.
My second day looked like the
I didn't
pictures.
struggle. So you'd made it to Huamachuco, but I think you were just a bit more slack than me getting going in the morning that second day. I was up and out, and
Hated it.
you were just kind of kicking your heels and having some breakfast and just generally taking far too long. Whereas I just got
Didn't
cracking,
want to
and
ride.
I made it, and it wasn't the distance I made it beyond you because I was probably only 40k further than you at that second night, but it was the fact that I'd got up and over the pass at 3,600 meters and um, got down to to the next village. But man, that next village, at least Wamachuco had like nice
Yeah.
hotels. I was staying in this
Yeah.
rickety hotel that looked like it was in Shitabamba, I tell you. Um,
Yeah.
it was just I mean, it only cost me like $3 for the night, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
But then the next day you get up and you're still in these kind of pre-Andes, but this is when all the gravel really really kicked in. I think I had
Yeah.
like that morning, so I got going at 4 o'clock that morning, and it was I think 70k of gravel, which just
Yeah.
took me like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Right,
But that's
you're
the
kind
that's
of
the
you're moving
hardest
along
thing about the
so
place.
slowly, and then
Yeah.
you get to Moya Bamba, which again some of the people on here will know about. Moya Bamba, you get to this really really famous view where I need to see if I can find it. You get to Moya Bamba and you descend from 3,200 meters all the way down to 2,000 meters, and then you have to climb all the way up the far side to a place called Payasco. And
That
I
was
had
I
this.
stayed in Payasco. It was that honestly I went into that climb at night, Neil. I did it all in the dark.
Did you? It's probably a
Yeah.
good thing because you couldn't see what was coming
Yeah.
and how frightening it was. Not frightening, but just like depressing it was. Like looking
But
up,
you
going, "Oh no."
no, the scary thing was I went down and it was getting dark. Came up the other side, didn't see a single soul. The only thing I did see at one point was a broken down truck, a few dead snakes, and I could not see the dogs, but I could hear the dogs. So you could hear panting in the bushes and footsteps behind you, because it was so dark, you couldn't see. So I carried on, and there was one hotel in. Do you want to know what was interesting about this day as well? That we
Not
got
really.
to. It was my birthday as well.
Oh yeah. Is
Yeah, it
this where
was my birthday.
Axel and Anthony came and found you with a cake?
Do you know what? Like, I was ready to punch Axel when he turned up. Like, I was like, I hate you so much. I was super dehydrated. I was ill. I was hungry. And they turn up and they're just like, happy birthday. And I was like, that is one of the only things that you're able to say to me to keep me in a good mood right now. But yeah, honestly, I was just not in the mood. It was an amazing birthday, and I had a beer that night to celebrate, and then just carried on. But I didn't really realise what place I was in or anything. All I knew is that Norm was catching me up because whoever wanted to go up that climb after me when it was later deserved to be in front of me. No word of a lie.
Well, as Chris says, Payasca, awesome. I got to
Oh,
Payasca
it's
at
incredible.
lunchtime, and that was where I kind of learnt my lesson about how to order food when you're in the middle of the Andes, because I'd gone into this restaurant at lunchtime
Yeah.
and sat down with the menu, looked at the menu, and thought, yeah, I'll have that. That looks good. And so, pointed and said, "That, please." And clearly, that was not something they had. So they kind of half an hour later, I'm still trying to find out where my food is, and they must have gone off to try and I don't know kill a chicken or something because they didn't have chicken ready that day.
But
So
it was like that though. That was the thing. It was like that. Like when you went to places, I didn't. I lived on fake Oreos the whole race because I just
fake
didn't want to eat
Oreos.
any chicken. Yeah,
Oh,
what
I
were they
kind of I
called?
had a mix. I either
Oh,
had fake Oreos or I was eating like 4 proper meals a day,
what?
which
What?
was lomo saltado,
Yep, that was the only one I knew how to pronounce, and I
which was
still got it
amazing.
wrong.
But that
Yeah,
was basically stir fried beef and onions with chips and rice. It's like perfect ultra racing food.
they were called breakaways, the fake Oreos.
Were they?
Yeah,
I don't know. Wasn't
breakaways.
that? Wasn't that something else?
Was it?
Like,
No, that
don't
was
take
not.
away my breakaway. That was a
There
biscuit
is
that we
something
used to
called the
have.
breakaway. Like there is something called the breakaway as well. But yeah, they were called that. Yeah, no. So all I was ordering was lomo sodalto, whatever you call it, and chips.
Saltado.
Saltada. That's what I said.
Yeah, it came with chips,
and
so
and
you were having
chips.
extra
Yeah.
chips.
Extra chips every time. Whenever I found a place, I would buy probably as many calories as I could in Oreos and biscuits and that kind of thing, and then just see what was in date and eat that. But half of it was out of date anyway. Everywhere you went, everything was just out of effing date. It was awful. Then you'd have Haribo. It was you were just hoping that someone would be open, and like half the time, people would just be asleep in their house or they just didn't. They don't understand economics. You have to have a store open to sell stuff. You know what I mean? Like it was awful. So yeah, no. So on my birthday, I did that. Woke up the next morning at Palaska, Palaska,
Payasca.
Pyaska, and then carried on. Uh, and that was the gravel section I found really tough. I'm not gonna lie, it was
This was so.
really
This I'm
challenging.
just going to keep because we're clearly out of order and not very well prepared. I'm just going to keep throwing
Yeah,
up photos as we get here. This is the first gravel section that we hit on day 2, but that just kind of
yeah,
shows what this was like. It's kind of epic scenery. This is what you get
yeah.
when you go to Peru. You're just going to get epic scenery, and this is at 3,600 meters above sea level, so you can't really breathe that well, and your heart's racing away because of the lack of oxygen, and it looks like this, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Right. Anyway, so
But
day
you
3.
you carry on,
So
you
like so
carry
the
on for
sec-
the views.
so second night you got to Huamachuco. By the third night you were in Payasca. Yeah.
Yeah. Then
And I think
after
I'd
that,
made it, so I descended all the way. There was a big long descent after Payasca, which took us down to the kind of very beginnings of the Canyon del Pato.
yes,
I'd
yes,
then
yeah,
ridden up there, and I'd caught up with Luca Mancini. Is it Luca
yeah,
Mancini? Uh,
yeah.
One of the Italian contingent, and then later on we were joined by Marco. So there were the three of us, and we eventually found somewhere to stay that night, which again was nothing more than I think it was like a truck driver's a hostel or something. So the three of us stayed in this room, and
Yeah.
it was pretty pretty basic. It's the kind of thing where this is where you're kind of glad that you'd taken a sleeping bag with you, because you
Actually.
kind of you opened the door and you looked into this room and you were just like, oh, I'm going to get fleas from this bed, or worse.
Yeah.
So
Here's 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 a picture of my hotel room in Alaska.
yeah,
Yeah. This
that
was
looks.
this was you can see that's not carpet. And do you know how much that cost me for the night?
How much did that cost you?
Two pounds.
Oh, I've lost your
Two
screen.
pounds.
There we go. What, a whole £2 for this room?
£2 for the
I
night,
don't
yeah.
believe it.
And they
I
gave
do
me
not believe it.
breakfast.
I think I know that Chris spent a night in Payaska last year. That's probably the
Yeah.
same place that you stayed, I'm guessing, Chris. Um, right, so we're
It
now up
was
to
very,
day, beginning of day 4, and kind of things now that everything had come back together. With the
yeah.
guys who had gone back down round by the coast. So at this stage, I think Rodney was about 6 hours ahead of me, and Michelangelo was about 3 hours ahead of me, and I was in this hostel with Luca and Marco. So I managed to get up and out fairly quickly the next morning. But my challenge was that I needed to get another rabies injection.
Mm,
So for those
yes.
of you who've not been bitten by a rabid dog before, it's not one injection. You have to have a course of five injections, which was very interesting. When I got my first injection, the nurse in the vaccination clinic says to me, right, can you come back in 3 days' time for your next injection? And I had to explain to her that no, because I'm going to be riding all the way around the countryside at this point. So I'd found a hotel where I could divert into to to get my next injection, which was
Yeah.
interesting. So I managed to get enough time on Luca and Marco to kind of get to. I think it was not what was it called? Let me just look at my map here. I got to Caraz. That was it. So I got to Caraz and
Yeah.
managed to get to hospital, have an injection, get out of hospital, and carry on riding. And kept a lead ahead of those guys. But this was
Yeah.
probably the most epic day. So I'd started that
Go
day
on.
at 1,200 meters above sea level
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock in the morning. By 4:45 that evening, I was at the top of the Punta Olympica at
Oh.
4,700 meters above sea level, and it
Yeah.
was. I still get emotional thinking about that day. I
Best.
was.
I've actually put a picture on of near the top already because that was my favourite climb I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, it
It
was
just doesn't do it
just.
justice.
It was just insane. Let me see if I can. We need to work on our. We need to work on our technology here a little bit, Robbie.
Yeah.
We will get better, people. We will get better.
Do you know what?
Um,
Actually, on the same day when you were out doing that, I my first part of that day, I started riding, and a dog started chasing me. So I do the normal thing of let's just stop, and I did. And there was a local lady, and she started throwing rocks at the dog, and that's one thing you don't do. You know, you do not attack the dog. You don't kick it in the face. You don't throw rocks at it. It is typically it's not fair. It's an animal, you know. And she actually kept throwing rocks at it, and it started to attack me because it thought it was me, and ripped all my bag open, and it got its jaw into my hydration bladder and bit through my hydration bladder. So all my
nice,
water went completely all into my frame bag, and I had to start using bottles instead. You know, but it was, yeah,
nice,
that was the start of my day. But after that, I found this lovely little shop, and I stocked on food massively, which was amazing. And, I actually didn't go up the climb on the same day as you. I stayed in, is it Haraz or one of these?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I
Carhuaz.
Carhuaz. Then I stayed in Carhuaz, and then the next morning I got up super early and went up to the Punta Olympia climb, and then came back down, um, and then stayed in a village further along. But yeah, by this point you were probably half a day in front of me at this point, like 12 hours. Look
Yeah.
at that
So this
grin.
is this is me at the top of the Punta Olympica, and that's one of the most. It was just the most amazing experience, and then I descended down, and Anthony and Axel caught me at the bottom of the climb and interviewed me, and I was almost, I was a complete emotional wreck talking about things. I was crying, I was tired. It was cold, and yeah, just absolutely insane. I think I do have a photo of on the way down, and yeah, this is what it looks like. You've got snow-capped mountains all around you. Just absolutely insane.
So when I went at the Punta Olympia, so the Punta Olympia is probably one of the biggest climbs in the whole race, and you literally have to go to the top, turn around, and come back down again. It's not that you go through. Um, Anthony and Axel. So Axel's the race organizer, and Anthony was the videographer. Can you call him that? And he was
Yeah.
one of the photographers. And he turned around to me and I saw them at the bottom, Neil, and he goes, "So you spent the race with other riders?" Yeah, I didn't. I was on my own nearly the whole race. It was only past day 4 and 5 I started to cross people, go in the other directions and things like that. So Anthony had said and Axe had said, "Look, Robbie, the bridge that we need to get over to meet Neil and everyone else is closed. So we're stuck for the rest of the day with you." So I literally had them following me the whole way up the climb. And they were just kind of doing video. They said they made the most amazing video of me zigzagging all the way up to the top. So although it was probably one of the toughest climbs for me, I had enough food, I had enough water, and I hate to say, because I knew that they were only round the corner, I had some really good company as well. So honestly, that was a great climb for me because it was the first time in about 3 days I'd seen another rider and wasn't on my own anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it worked out
yeah,
really well.
yeah. Well, right. So, where are we now? I've just descended off the Punta Olympica. You were you were kind of half a day behind at this stage.
Yeah.
That was the worst for me. That was the worst bit with regards to dogs, because I came down off Punta Olympica. I got down to Huaraz, no,
Mm.
Carhuaz, probably about 6 o'clock. So just as the sun was going down, and that stretch, it's like a 35-40 kilometer stretch from Carhuaz to Huaraz, and
Yeah.
it was just, it was dark by this stage. It's a really busy tourist route, so there's buses going past you all the time. Every village you went through, the dogs would just come out running after you and barking and
Buses this
attacking you, and you'd have to
close.
stop. And oh man, it was
Mm.
crazy. But I made it to checkpoint. I got to checkpoint three. Checkpoint three.
Checkpoint
Checkpoint
two.
two. Made it to checkpoint
Yeah.
two. Bumped into the guys. Had like pizza and a beer, and stayed at the checkpoint hotel, which I think again I got to in third place. So by this
Yeah.
start time, I was just behind, or probably half a day behind Rodney and Michelangelo.
Mm.
They were at the base of the climb up to Yanashala, and I was in Huaraz. So good night's sleep, and yeah, got going. I don't know about you, but I found like as the days were going, you were getting a little bit later and a little bit later. I think one of the reasons is the cold. It was cold in the mornings. It was cold overnight, and
Mm.
that is something that did impact your race strategy. You're not going to be going to 4,700 meters in the middle of the night because it's just too cold. It's going to get down to like -10.
Yeah.
And at that altitude where you just struggle to keep warm. So I was finding myself starting later and later, and I think this kind of bit me a little bit on this day. So this was day 5. Anyway, so
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
day 5 set off, and it was just I knew I had to get up and over the Yanashala Pass, and I made the decision to turn off and come up and over the gravel section, down to Yanashala, turn around, and then come back over the gravel section and back to Huaraz. And the aim was really to get up and down to Huaraz again that by that night. I set off up the gravel section, which was just amazing. It was really, because you're properly in the Andes by now, and I need to kind of queue up another photo here. It's what I think they call it the Pasturi, where you're kind of riding along, and it's kind of a lot of the kind of flat marshland or flat land leading up into the peaks of the Andes. So I think I can bring this up.
See, this is where I went a different route to you, because when I eventually came to that, because what it was they want you to do it in a circle. So just say you were here, you could come up and then go up to the checkpoint this way, or you could basically do a big loop round. But Neil just went up, checkpoint, came back. I did a loop instead, but the views were just next level stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Absolutely
see here
next
the
level stuff.
photo, the photo looking at where we were going, and we were literally going up and over this mountain range, and
Yeah, straight
it
to.
it was. It was just amazing. I got to the national park checkpoint, and there I bumped into Luca, and we'd kind of made the decision that, given the altitude, given where we were, we would ride together that day. So we
Yeah.
kind of rode, pushed, climbed, whatever, manhandled our bikes up, and this is where you were up at like 5,000 meters, and it's just crazy. We saw
Mm.
Rodney come back the other way, so we passed him at about 11 o'clock in the morning, but then we got up and over the pass, or up and over the off-road pass, because this is all on gravel. Descended down to Yanashala to do the picture checkpoint, and then started to come back across, but the weather just closed in, and you look at the weather, the storm clouds are coming in. You're at 4.5, 5,000 meters. We very quickly realised we weren't going to make it back over the pass, so turned around and came back down and onto the main road, and we made it to this restaurant at probably about 5:30 that evening. Stopped to get some food, and literally within half an hour of stopping to get some food, the rain hit, the hail hit. It was just battering so hard on the roof of I call it a restaurant. It was like a little tin shack, to be honest. And we just ended up kind of about 7 o'clock. We both realised that we weren't going to be going anywhere that night. So we slept in the hostel next door, and then woke up the next day for the start of day 6. It was like -5 outside. You went outside and there was like ice on the ground, and you're like, oh geez, this is going to be something else. And this was, I in my head, it was still going to be 2 days back to the finish in Trujillo. Anyway, so we set off, and kind of after kind of riding together the previous day, we were like, right, now we're back to race mode. So we're kind of backwards and forwards all morning as we climb up to the first 4,500 meter pass. Over that, descend down again, and luckily on the flatter stuff, I was able to pull away from Luca. And so by the time we got to Huaraz, I probably had about 3 hours on him. And then you get to Huaraz, and my route took me back over one more big mountain pass. And you know what? Climbing up that last pass, looking over the Andes, oh man, I was in tears.
I went the same way, but a day after you.
Yeah, well, that was the morning that you and I crossed, didn't we? We
Yeah,
met each other at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
so the night you went up to the Yanashala Pass, I actually, you went up, and then the next day you were coming down. That next day I was going up, so I was probably a day behind you. But I went up the roadway and then came down the gravel. And I remember passing you, and I'd been so lonely, so upset for so long. and I see you, and I started to tear. And I remember seeing you, had a quick like hug, and said, "You're right, mate." I'm like, "Yeah, you." And I just remember saying to you, "I just can't wait for this to be over, mate. I don't like. I'm not." I said it's an incredible race, but I'm just not enjoying it. So you went on your way, and I'm glad we did spend too much longer talking because I was pretty broken. I was just not like in a nice place. And I went up, and then as I went up, so I got started to feel quite ill with the altitude and have these splitting headaches. My nose had been bleeding for about 4 hours at one point, and I was like, this is a really bad situation to be in. So I'd come up to like 4,000, come and they're like come back down or come to like 4,400, come back down to 4,000 in this valley, and had to climb up to five. And I was in this little town, and I decided I needed to find a place to sleep, and it ended up being some crappy little bloody barn-looking thing. But I got some food, and I'd gone to sleep, and I went up to the Yanashala Pass in probably the worst shape I'd ever been in, because that night I kept waking up to need to go to the bathroom. I had really bad guts, and I think I'd eaten something really dodgy, and literally I was just broken. So I got over the pass, came back down, and I had decided that because I was in such a bad state on the top, I decided I was going to scratch, like, and I thought, just stop thinking like that, Rob, get down the gravel. I run out of food and water, and I'd had none for like half a day. So I was in a real mess. And I remember coming down, and Anthony and Axel, so the organizer and the videographer, they pull up to me near Haraz on the way back down after I'd done the Anashala Pass. So gone up to 5,000 meters and come down, and I was about 3,000 meters, and Anthony, the videographer, ran up to me in this garage, and he said, "Where the hell have you been?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he just goes, "You haven't opened your phone." And I said, "I haven't had any reception for like a day and a half, 2 days." And he was like, "Yeah, but like your tracker hasn't been working, so no one's known where you are. We were up in the gravel looking for you." And at this point, while they were there looking for me, do you remember the story about that lady that they found? So
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
a lady and a child had been left up there by the husband to die at like 5,000 meters, and I'd gone up and they couldn't find me, and they'd come back. Obviously, we'd come back. I'd come back down. They had been looking for me on the way back down, and ended up bumping into this lady and child and saving them, saving their life, which was fantastic while they were out looking for me. So I saw them, and I said, "Oh, look, guys, I think I'm done. I can't do this anymore." And I just said, "Oh, that broke me." I said, "I've been really altitude sick. My nose hasn't stopped bleeding. I'm tired. I'm dizzy. I just can't do this anymore." And had a bit of a cry, the usual stuff. And then the Axel said to me, "You sure you want to?" And I said, "Just give me five." And I got some more food, some more water. And I thought, let's go to Haraz now. It's still light. I'll get there by darkness, so the dogs won't be too bad on the way there. So I did that, and Axel said to me, "Oh, before you go, have you looked at track leaders?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." And he goes, "You realise you're in ninth, don't you?" And I thought I'd lost, like, because I'd had in this barn thing, I'd instead of sleeping for 4 hours, which I intended, I slept for 12. So I'd literally just gone to sleep, slept through my alarm, and then there I was. So they said to me, "Oh, you're in ninth," and I thought I must be at the back of the pack by now. So I thought, let's go get a good night's sleep, and I did that, and then carried on, which was kind of my last day or two. So I went up that pass, Neil, the last one you spoke about, which went to 4,400 meters, and then it descended all the way to sea level, which was incredible.
That
So
was the most insane descent of my life.
it took me 2 hours, 2 hours to get down from the top to the bottom. So that
Yeah,
was
hang
actually
on.
over
Did you
two
not then
hours.
go over the? Like, I did the descent, and then you get to this point where the road had been washed away in the last El Nino, and I hit
Yes, I
this. I hit this at 7 o'clock at night, so it's pitch black. I've been riding since 7 o'clock that morning, so I've been up for 12 hours. I've gone over two 4,200 meter passes. Suddenly, the road has just turned to shit.
Yeah,
There's
oh, that
cars
was
coming at
terrible.
you. There's trucks coming at you. There's dust everywhere. The only saving grace is you're back at sea level, so because you've spent so long at altitude, you feel superhuman. You're like, wow, I
Yeah,
feel amazing. I just 2 hours slogging through this awful road, or road that wasn't a road. And
Yeah, it is.
I all I could think of was just make it to the checkpoint. Um, Eventually, I made it to the checkpoint. I don't think I'd ever been so happy to see a checkpoint. But there was
Yeah.
nobody at the checkpoint, and the hotel was almost shut down. There was like somebody on the desk, but that was it. So I get there,
It's the same.
and I think, right, well, I better go and get some food. So, cause it's about 9:30 at night. So I get there, I go and get some food, and check the tracker, and Michelangelo is kind of 4 hours ahead of me. Don't need to worry about him. Luca, he's going to be back in Juarez. There's no way he's going to be up and chasing me down tonight. So I texted Laura and I said, I think I'm going to get 3 or 4 hours sleep in the hotel after I've finished my food, and then I'll crack on with it early tomorrow morning. So I eat my food, and then kind of just as I'm finishing at the restaurant, I check the tracker again. And first of all, I realised that Michelangelo's not moved. So I'm like, oh, he's asleep, isn't he? And then I realised that Luca is at the top of the pass. So he's pushed on from Juarez in the dark. He's got to the top of the pass. He's going to descend that pass in the middle of the night. And so if I wanted, and I was in third place at this point, so I was like, I'm in third place. I've got a chance to get to second, but only if I push on through the night. So the next thing I do, I'm texting Laura going, I need to push on through the night. And that just was the most insane night of my life. I think that's the most insane night I've had on any ultra race, either before or since. Because you're riding down, but you're back at sea level now. You're back on the Pan American Highway. You're by the coast. It's warm, and you're not at altitude, but it's raining. It's drizzly. It's foggy. It's pitch black. You've got these kind of Peruvian and Chilean truck drivers hammering past you. There's this
Not
narrow
giving
strip.
an F.
Yeah, not really giving, not really caring for you.
Yeah.
There's this kind of narrow strip of hard shoulder, but you can't see it. You can't see what's in it, so you don't want to ride in there. So you're riding in the main motorway. I mean, you're on a 2-lane motorway, and I had this kind of little reflective band on my shoulder or on my arm, and I'm waving it like a chicken every time I see somebody come past. I'm like literally, wave my arm like a chicken so that they can see this little reflective strip I've got. And I think what had happened is Michelangelo had kind of was speaking to his dad, and he'd said, look, if the English guy gets to within 2 hours of me, wake me up. So Michelangelo then gets the death call at 1 o'clock in the morning going, the English guy's right behind you, you need to get up and start riding. So he and I had ended up having this kind of battle all through the night. And I remember getting to this place called Chow at like 3:30 in the morning. The clubs were just kicking people out. And I get to a set of traffic lights, and I'm just like going, please please be red, because I was so tired, I just needed to stop. And they were red, so I stopped and I got off my bike, and I think I must have slept like this over my handlebars through about 20 cycles of the traffic lights. And I woke up and I texted Laura and said, I just need to sleep. I just need to get like 20 minutes of sleep. And she just said, no you don't, eat something, you'll be fine. Have something to eat, carry on. Don't be so weak. so I did. So I ate a Snickers bar. I realised I had a Snickers bar, a piece of caffeine chewing gum. No, 2 Snickers bars and 1 piece of caffeine chewing gum. So I said, right, it's probably 4 hours to go from here. So I'm going to have, 3 hours to go. I'm going to have Snickers bar now. Then in an hour I'm going to have caffeine gum, and then in another hour my last Snickers bar, and then hopefully I should make it to the end. So yeah, eventually couldn't quite close Michelangelo down, but eventually crossed the finish line about just after 7 o'clock in the morning in third place, which was amazing. And I was so, like I say, Michelangelo literally had just finished before me, and he was, even though my Italian was not very good and his English was not very good. I'm just going to bring this up. Hang on. Bear with us on the technology.
So
that was us at the finish line. As you can see, Michelangelo is wearing typical
See,
Italian garb.
that's the funky kit I was talking about. Is
What is
it?
it? Right, if any Italians listen to this show, could you please drop us a line or drop us a text and tell us why you wear such bright clothing? I'll call it bright.
So after you had finished, you'd text me saying, I'm done, awesome. And I remember I was in Haraz that night. So the next morning I got up really early, climbed to 4,000, then did the big descent down through the bloody gravelly crap, the road that washed away. Got out to see the last checkpoint, and I was like, "Oh, brilliant! I'm ready. I can literally 100 miles to go, and I'm home. So 160k, and back to the original hotel. I'm having a beer with Neil, and I did the majority of it. And I remember sitting there thinking, it got so the last stretch was the Pan Am Highway, and it was crap. Like you're right, the roads, lorries were so close, the trucks didn't give a shit. And like sometimes there wasn't a hard shoulder, and I was not enjoying it. And I looked at the tracker, I'm in ninth, and I'm like, you're gonna finish this in ninth if you carry on, Rob. And then I started to get up to, the last kind of big town that you said the nightclubs were kicking out of. So that was like 70k from the finish, if I'm correct. And I sat there thinking, you know what, 40 miles left. I'd had so many close calls on the Pan Am Highway with truck drivers at night and dogs chasing me. I thought, you know what? I stopped, checked the tracker, and there was a guy called Fabian who had been riding with someone else. I can't remember his name. And so I checked the tracker, and they were 3 or 4 hours behind me. And I looked and thought, do you know what? If they go, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to get some dinner. They're on the tracker. It looks like they've stopped at a hotel. So I thought, if they go, I'll go. So I had dinner. Hour later, I had some more dinner, and then I found a hotel. And I checked, and they weren't moving. And that's when I sent you a message, Neil, saying I can't go back on that road. It's just too dark. It's too dangerous. And because it was like rush hour 9, 10 o'clock at night, which was a very popular time, then I thought I'm not going to risk it. So I started going to sleep and I set my alarm for a few hours. I thought worst case scenario that I'll sleep for 4 hours and they'll catch me up and it'll be fine. But in the end, I stepped in because nobody moved, nobody jumped on the Pan Am Highway that night, and I got to the finish the next day, where you can see I have the most
Needed a
killer tan
haircut.
line in the world.
Needed a
Yeah,
haircut for sure.
that's how
And
long I was out there.
we're talking about the Italians wearing garish kit. What are those sleeves?
I
Would
love
you
the
care to
sleeves.
explain what is on those sleeves?
They're just feathers, and I absolutely that is one of my favourite jerseys ever, and I still have it. It's covered in blood now though because of the race, but it is there. Oh, do you want to see something cool? You full screen me, Neil. Full screen me.
Hang on a second. Full screen you. There we go.
Full screen me.
You are full screen.
There you go.
Oh, the
That's
dog's
my
asleep.
puppy. Yeah, she is. See,
Oh,
this
I
is
thought
what I
this was.
normally get. Did you want to come to Inca? Yeah. Perfect. Anyway, sorry. So I got to the finish, and that was the race, and probably to this day the best race I've ever done. To this day, the only one I probably would never go back and do again. Full stop. But yeah, anyway,
Really?
you finished third, which was amazing. I finished ninth,
Yeah.
which I was
Yeah.
happy with, top 10. Um, I finished a day and a half behind you, 2 days, something like that, a long, long time.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, it was incredible, and I highly recommend it. Amazing race, but it was just brutal. If you think
It's
you're
hard.
going in and you're gonna kill it. You really have to take every day as that you're doing half the distance as like a day in TCR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's hard. It is an amazing. I mean, Peru is just one of those places to ride your bike, which is like
yeah,
nothing else. It's
yeah.
fantastic. I mean,
It's
there's very few places like this on the planet, and it is just remarkable. I think Chris said earlier. Let me
yeah.
just
I was just
come back
about
to
to.
comments. Chris says, "Look, the most amazing place to go and ride a bike. Nothing compares after that, and it just doesn't. It is incredible, and I think this
Mm.
is." this this race is up there with the likes of Silk Road as really
Yeah.
really tough races to go and do. It's not doesn't have the weather to contend with like Silk Road does, but it has more altitude. And I think looking at where Axel's taking the race this year, stroke next year, is it's going to provide even more of a tough
Yeah.
examination with more gravel, more time at high altitude, and having to
Mm.
deal with sleeping out at high altitude. It was for me. It was a life changing experience. It's been so much fun to go
Same.
back and kind of replay the race, talking to you and to look through the photos. Yeah, just an absolutely incredible experience.
Yeah. I honestly, if I hate to say, but it was after. So I said I was going to talk about the aftermath of this race. So after I finished, I was like, wow. I did not even think for 1 second. Every day I woke up wanting to scratch. Every day I didn't want to do that. Every day riding was just the hardest thing ever, especially for in such bad conditions and tough conditions. And I just remember finishing, and the few days with you was great, having a drink, knowing it was over, realizing I'd lost 4 kilos, so I had a lot to put back on. And getting home, like probably the weeks after, I just that ruined me a bit. The altitude, the gravel, I was just destroyed. But like mentally just gone. Like I didn't want to ride a bike for a few weeks, and it was so tough to get back on the bike. I felt quite damaged by the race because I think it was the altitude that just destroyed me a bit. But to Taiwan, which was our next race, I was like, and still to this day I say it, nothing will ever be as bad as the Inca Divide. You know, race around Netherlands, I don't even question being stuck out at night because the Peru was so extreme that if you can do that and then you go to the Netherlands, it's like the extremities are just gone. So it gives you more time to think about racing and will I get food here? Will I get food there? You're just so many races are so catered for it's getting food and sleeping and knowing that at night time the lowest it'll get is 7 degrees, and then you go to Peru and everything is like logistics, food. The riding is 5% of the race. It's just how to do the riding and how to plan everything. It's all the other
Yeah,
crap.
yeah. I'm looking forward to hopefully. Well, given the TCRs next year now, probably it's going to be
Yeah.
2022
I
before I have
I
a crack
think
at the
Neil,
Silk Road.
maybe you should come to the Netherlands because that's going to be on in August, supposedly. Fingers crossed.
Okay,
Yeah, come
maybe.
to the Netherlands.
I'm looking forward to doing. I'm looking forward to seeing how Silk Road compares because I think Kyrgyzstan is the only place I've been to that feels and looks and is similar to Peru. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
that. But yeah, just an amazing race. Now we've got a question coming. So if anybody does have any questions, there's only 3 people watching at the
Yes.
moment, Robbie. I think
It's okay.
everyone's having a little bit of a snooze in
Yeah, but
bed. Carl says, "What was the weight of your bikes with full kit set up for Peru?" Um, I think
I know this actually.
mine was about 15 kilos. So, and I think the thing with Peru is you had to prepare and plan as if you were going to be out overnight, even if you hope never to be out overnight. So I took sleeping bag, I took a bivy bag, and I took a sleeping mat. I also took a down jacket, full winter cycling gloves. I took a kind of like a head, a skull cap to put on under my helmet. So yeah, a lot more stuff than you would do normally. I took a thermal, so I had like thermal, arms, legs, little toe caps to keep my feet a little bit warmer, down jacket, waterproof, winter gloves, and then yeah, helmet thing, and that just about worked. And I think all in, I was 15 kilos, not including water or food. What about you, Robbie?
So not including water or food, I was heavier than you. Um, I had I extra gear I took. Obviously, you're on bigger tires, so that was adding weight. But realistically, I was about 16, 17 because I took normal gloves, winter gloves. I took a really thick. You know how you had your gore jacket? I
Yeah.
didn't have a gore jacket this time, so I took a really big insulated big jacket, and I took like a down jacket, like a thermal insulation one, and I took another jacket as well for just light rain. I went stacked. I had loads of stuff, and just like even overshoes we had taken and stuff like that, neoprene overshoes. You're right, and then plus bivy and stuff like that. You have to plan that you're probably going to get caught out once, twice. So yeah, so I was about 16, 17 kilo, but honestly, there were everything that I took I used, and I'm glad I took it. Bar the bivy, that was the only thing that I
Yeah, I
didn't
did. Like,
use.
I used my sleeping bag in like the hostels and
Actually,
rooms I
yeah,
was staying in.
same. Same. I
But
ended up
didn't use
using
the
my
bivy
sleeping
bag.
bag.
Didn't use the sleeping mat. So everything else
Yeah.
was used. So yeah, so
There
there we
was a
go.
lot of
If anybody else has any questions, if you're watching this not live, or if you're listening on the podcast, then leave comments down below, or send us the comments through the Facebook page. Any questions on this, and we will do our best to answer them.
yeah, definitely. And
Robin,
yeah, thank you everyone for listening. It's a really actually I'm not gonna lie to you, Neil, it's such a difficult race to talk about because it was so tough. Like I'm not gonna lie, I didn't. It was such a mentally destroying thing for
yeah,
me. So it's really tough to talk about it again. As weird as it sounds, it was an amazing race, but most importantly, thank you for listening. But I think from both of us, everyone stay isolated and stay safe. You know,
yeah.
don't pick anything up.
Stay safe. I think this is a lot more widely spread than we think. I think a lot more people are going to be coming down with it over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, and potentially
Yeah,
longer. So yeah, stay safe. Ride outside whilst you can, but
yeah,
ride by yourself, and ride within your limits. Take everything that you need. Don't rely
yeah.
on other people or shops or
Uh,
things to get you out of trouble. But stay fit, stay healthy, and we will hopefully be back. Are we going to be back on Friday? Are we going to do this every Friday, or are we going to do one
yeah, yeah.
sooner?
I think we should do one soon, but make a habit of every Friday, and maybe in 2 days. 2 days
Yeah, and
is
this
good.
time we're going to publicise it better. I think Carl has already
Yeah,
said you didn't tell us. I'm going to blame Robbie for that. Robbie, I used to
I
think it was
did. I
just.
did
I used to
post.
think it
I
was just because
posted.
Robbie was just very very busy with work, but it just turns out Robbie's actually just shit at talking to
Just
people,
I am terrible.
and
Absolutely terrible.
he goes quiet.
Um,
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know what's wrong with him. Anyway, yeah, we will advertise it better. Hopefully this time next week. Do people
yeah.
prefer 12 o'clock, or do people prefer 3 o'clock? Let us know. You're all at home
Let us know.
anyway because everybody's working from home except for key workers. And right, thanks for
Right.
talking, everybody. Enjoy and stay safe.
Stay safe, guys.